"Hey, you there! Don't move!" Officer Raymond Mercer barked, hand already on his holster as he approached the black SUV with tinted windows. General Marcus Washington sighed, rolling down the window of his vehicle. "Is there a problem, officer?" Before Marcus could finish, Mercer yanked the door open. "Step out of the vehicle, now!" People in the gas station parking lot slowed, some pulling out phones. Marcus stepped out with measured calm, standing tall despite the rain soaking his civilian clothes. "License and registration," Mercer demanded, then smirked. "If you even have any." What Mercer didn't notice was the military identification card, visible in Marcus's wallet, and the 4-star insignia that would soon change everything. If you believe respect should be earned, not demanded, hit like and subscribe, and comment "respect" below. Only those who don't believe in justice would scroll past. Fort Belvoir, Virginia stood as a monument to military precision, verdant grounds, gleaming facilities, and a discipline that ran through the very soil. Just 20 miles from the Pentagon, it was a place where rank meant something, where order was more than a concept. General Marcus Washington had called it home for 3 months now, ever since his appointment as commander of the U.S. Army Materiel Command. At 57, his closely cropped hair had gone silver at the temples. His posture remained parade ground perfect, and his eyes carried both warmth and the weight of 34 years of service. 3 combat tours, 2 Purple Hearts, and now 4 stars on his shoulder. A legacy earned inch by hard-fought inch. What most people saw first, though, was a black man, and Marcus had never had the luxury of forgetting that. "Sir, your meeting with the Joint Chiefs is confirmed for 800 tomorrow," his aide, Captain Rivera, said as Marcus gathered his things to leave for the day. "And your sister called again about Sunday dinner." Marcus smiled, tucking his phone into his pocket. "Tell Diane I'll be there. Not even the Secretary of Defense can keep me from her sweet potato pie." "Yes, sir." Rivera hesitated. "Sir, your detail is waiting, but—" Marcus waved him off. "I'm driving myself tonight, Captain. Just heading to pick up Angela's birthday present and then home. With respect, sir, protocol suggests that after 34 years, I might occasionally drive myself to a shopping mall." Marcus finished with a gentle firmness that ended the conversation. The weight of 4 stars meant many things. Responsibility. For 120,000 personnel across the globe, procurement decisions worth billions, constant security. But sometimes it also meant the simple human need to be just Marcus for an hour. As he slipped on his civilian raincoat over jeans and a simple button-down, he looked more like a professor than one of the highest-ranking officers in the U.S. military. Just another middle-aged black man heading out on a rainy Friday evening, which is exactly how Officer Raymond Mercer would see him, 20 minutes later at a gas station just off the interstate. Have you ever been judged before someone knew your true worth? Tell us in the comments, and if you believe in hidden strength rising, hit like and subscribe. "I said license and registration," Mercer barked louder, hand still hovering near his weapon. Marcus reached slowly for his wallet. "May I ask why I'm being stopped, officer?" "This vehicle matches a description," Mercer said flatly, eyes scanning the luxury SUV with suspicion. "Of what, exactly?" Marcus asked calmly. "Just produce your ID before I have to make this difficult," Mercer snapped, stepping closer. Marcus noted the officer's nameplate, his stance, the dash cam that should be recording this encounter, the crowd growing larger, the rain falling harder, and the fact that Officer Mercer's body camera light wasn't on. "What would you do if someone disrespected you publicly? Would you stay calm or fight back instantly? Drop your answer below, also hit like and subscribe." "Sir, step back and place your hands on the vehicle," Mercer ordered, voice rising. Marcus complied with practiced calm, placing his wallet on the hood first. "Officer, I believe there's been a misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding," Mercer cut him off, roughly kicking Marcus's feet wider apart. You fit the profile. Blackmail, expensive vehicle. We've had reports of drug activity in this area." The words hung in the humid air, naked in their implication. A woman nearby gasped. "Officer Mercer," Marcus said evenly, using the name he'd memorized from the nameplate. "I'd like to speak with your superior." The request was met with a harsh laugh as Mercer began an aggressive pat-down. "Oh, now you know procedure, huh? Convenient." A younger officer jogged up from a second patrol car, looking uncertain. "Everything okay here, Ray?" "Just dealing with another one thinking he's special," Mercer said, then froze as his hand found Marcus's wallet. He flipped it open, and his expression shifted microscopically as he saw the military ID. "Lieutenant General Washington?" the younger officer read aloud, eyes widening. "It's actually General now," Marcus corrected quietly. 4-star. Mercer's face darkened. "Military ID doesn't mean you're not hiding something. For all I know, this could be fake." He jerked Marcus's arms behind his back with unnecessary force. The cold metal of handcuffs bit into Marcus's wrists with a decisive click. "You're detaining a senior military officer without cause," Marcus stated, his voice controlled but carrying across the now silent parking lot. "I suggest you reconsider." "I suggest you shut up," Mercer hissed, leaning close enough that only Marcus could hear his next words. "General or not, you people need to learn your place." The younger officer shifted uncomfortably. "Ray, maybe we should—" "Get the car door," Mercer ordered sharply. As Marcus was roughly guided toward the patrol car, he caught sight of at least 7 phones recording the encounter. Good. Because what Officer Mercer didn't realize was that Marcus Washington hadn't survived 3 decades in the military without learning how systems worked and how to dismantle them when necessary. If you were standing in General Washington's shoes, would you show mercy or hold the line? Comment your choice below. And if you stand for real accountability, like and subscribe now. The back of the patrol car smelled of disinfectant and desperation. Marcus sat upright despite the handcuffs, his mind already mapping out what would come next. Outside, the younger officer, Peters, according to his nameplate, approached Mercer with obvious concern. "Ray, his ID checks out. He's not just military. He's one of the highest-ranking generals in the Army." "So what?" Mercer snapped, but a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. He was acting suspicious, refused to comply. A woman stepped forward from the growing crowd. "That's not true. I've been recording the whole thing. He was completely respectful." Mercer spun toward her. "Ma'am, step back or you'll be arrested for interfering with police business." "Are you threatening a witness?" came a new voice. A tall man in a suit approached, holding up a credential. "Special Agent Dawson, FBI. I was getting gas when this started. Want to tell me why you're detaining a 4-star general without cause?" The color drained from Mercer's face. "This is a local police matter. It became federal the moment you put hands on a flag officer," Dawson replied coolly, "and I'm very interested in hearing what justified this interaction." Mercer's radio crackled to life. "Unit 437, this is dispatch. We're receiving calls about your current stop. Captain Warren is requesting immediate clarification." Marcus watched through the window as Mercer's world began to crumble in real time. The officer's posture stiffened, his hand nervously adjusting his collar as he realized exactly who was sitting in the back of his patrol car, and exactly how many people now knew about it. If someone crossed a line they couldn't take back, would you call them out or let the world decide? Drop your answer in the comments. Hit like and subscribe to the channel if this hit you too. Captain Warren arrived within minutes, his unmarked vehicle screeching to a halt beside the patrol car. He took in the scene with a glance. The handcuffed general, the gathering crowd, the FBI agent, and his increasingly pale officer. "Remove those cuffs. Now," Warren ordered Mercer, his voice tight with controlled fury. As Mercer fumbled with the key, Warren approached Marcus with professional deference. "General Washington, I cannot begin to express my apologies for this incident. Marcus stepped out of the car, rubbing his wrists. Captain, I believe we have several issues to address, starting with your officer's conduct and moving to departmental policies that might encourage such behavior. Warren nodded grimly. Yes, sir. We absolutely do. Mercer stood to the side, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool rain. Captain, I was following procedure for suspicious— Suspicious what, exactly? Marcus interrupted, his quiet voice somehow more commanding than if he'd shouted. I was putting gas in my car. Would you like to explain on record what made that suspicious? Mercer's mouth opened, then closed. That's what I thought, Marcus said. The FBI agent stepped closer. Captain Warren, as this involves a high-ranking military officer, my office will be opening an inquiry. I'll need all body cam footage. Officer Mercer's camera appears to be off, Marcus noted. Warren's expression hardened further. That will be part of our internal investigation, which I'm opening effective immediately. For the first time, real fear flashed across Mercer's face. This wasn't going away with a report and a handshake. This was just beginning. When everyone's watching, would you keep pushing for truth or let it go? What would you do? Share your decision in the comments. Also hit like and subscribe. By morning, the video had gone viral. General Marcus Washington, in handcuffs, standing with military bearing while a visibly agitated Officer Mercer tried to justify his actions to an FBI agent and police captain. Marcus sat in his home office, uniform pressed and ready for the day, watching the media coverage unfold. His phone hadn't stopped ringing. Calls from the Pentagon, the Secretary of Defense, congressional leaders, civil rights organizations. Sir, his aide said from the doorway, the Chief of Police is here. Marcus nodded. Show him in. Chief Michael Davis entered, hat in hand, accompanied by Captain Warren. Both men looked like they hadn't slept. General, I want to personally apologize for what happened yesterday, Davis began. It was unacceptable, inexcusable, and does not reflect the values of our department. Doesn't it? Marcus asked simply. Davis faltered. Sir, Officer Mercer has 17 complaints of racial bias in his file, Marcus said, looking at the tablet in front of him. 5 use-of-force incidents involving black civilians, 0 disciplinary actions. The chief's surprise was genuine. How did you? I have a security clearance that would make your head spin, Chief Davis, Marcus replied calmly. And friends in every federal agency. By 9 p.m. last night, I had Officer Mercer's complete service record. He stood straightening to his full height. So I'll ask again. Doesn't his behavior reflect exactly what your department has tolerated for years? Davis swallowed hard. General, what can we do to make this right? Marcus's expression was unwavering. Not cover it up. Would you let injustice slide if it kept the peace? Or would you risk everything to call it out? Share your choice in the comments. Like and subscribe if you believe silence is never the answer. 3 days later, Marcus sat before the Senate Armed Services Committee, an emergency session called under the pretense of military community relations. In reality, it was damage control. The video had surpassed 50 million views. General Washington, Senator Hayes began, could you please walk us through what happened Friday evening? Marcus leaned toward the microphone. I was profiled, detained, and handcuffed without cause by an officer with a documented history of racial bias. When my military status became known, the situation changed. Not because my rights suddenly mattered more, but because my rank made me harder to victimize. The chamber fell silent. And that, Marcus continued, is the problem we're not discussing. I shouldn't need stars on my shoulder to be treated with basic dignity. Senator Keller, always eager for sound bites, leaned forward. General, wouldn't you agree that this was simply one bad officer, not a systemic issue? With respect, Senator, no. Marcus's response was measured but firm. Officer Mercer has 17 prior complaints. His department took no action. That's not one bad officer. That's a system working exactly as designed. Cameras flashed as Marcus placed a folder on the table. I've taken the liberty of compiling incidents involving military personnel of color from all 5 branches over the past decade. 342 documented cases of racial profiling, or excessive force, from privates to colonels. He looked directly at the committee. I'm not here because I was handcuffed. I'm here because I'm one of the few with enough rank that people are forced to listen. Across town, Officer Mercer sat in an administrative hearing, watching the testimony, on a mounted TV. His union representative looked increasingly grim as Marcus methodically dismantled every possible excuse. "They're throwing you under the bus," Mercer muttered to his rep. "This is political theater." "No," the rep replied quietly. "This is what happens when you handcuff the wrong man." Back in the hearing, Marcus was responding to a question about his intentions. "I am declining to file a civil suit," he stated. "Instead, I'm requesting 3 actions: an independent review of Officer Mercer's prior complaints, a Department of Justice examination of the department's handling of bias cases, and mandatory training reforms." Senator Hayes nodded. "And Officer Mercer himself?" "I believe in accountability, not retribution," Marcus replied. "But any officer who sees a uniform as permission rather than responsibility has no business wearing one." His words hung in the air, echoing through the chamber and across screens nationwide. In the administrative hearing room, Mercer's phone buzzed with a text from the chief. "Administrative leave, effective immediately. Surrender your badge and weapon." Mercer stared at his phone in disbelief. 22 years on the force, and it was unraveling because of one traffic stop. What he didn't yet understand was that it wasn't unraveling because of who Marcus Washington was. It was unraveling because of who Raymond Mercer had always been. What would you do if the whole room watched you bring someone to justice? Stay strong or show mercy? Let's talk about it. Also, hit like and subscribe. 1 week later, Marcus sat across from the Secretary of Defense in a private Pentagon office. "The President wants this to go away, Marcus," the Secretary said, sliding a folder across the desk. "Settlement offer. Mercer resigns quietly. Department admits no wrongdoing. You make a statement about miscommunication and moving forward." Marcus didn't touch the folder. "With respect, sir, that's not justice. That's convenience. It's practical. You've made your point. Take the win." "A win?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Is that what we're calling it when a man with power abuses it, then faces no consequences?" The Secretary sighed. "You're a 4-star general, Marcus. Your next assignment could be Chief of Staff. But if you keep pushing this, you'll make powerful enemies." Marcus sat perfectly still, the weight of 34 years pressing on his shoulders. He thought about his father, who'd served in Vietnam only to come home to a country that treated him as less than whole. About his nephew, pulled over 3 times in 1 month for routine checks. About the young soldiers who looked to him not just for orders, but for proof that the uniform meant something beyond the battlefield. "Mr. Secretary," Marcus finally said, "with all due respect, I didn't earn these stars by avoiding necessary fights." He stood, straightening his uniform jacket. "And I didn't swear an oath to defend practical. I swore to defend justice." The Secretary's expression was unreadable. "You're making a choice here, Marcus." "No, sir," Marcus replied quietly. "I made that choice a long time ago." "Would you show mercy to someone who never showed you respect? Or would you let the consequences do the talking? Let us know in the comments. Also, like and subscribe. The press conference wasn't Marcus's idea. In fact, he'd argued against it. But when the leaked audio of his meeting with the secretary hit the news cycle, the Pentagon's damage control machinery kicked into high gear. Now he stood at a podium, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions, the chief of staff and secretary of Defense flanking him like prison guards. General Washington will read a prepared statement, the Pentagon press secretary announced, but will not be taking questions. Marcus looked down at the statement they'd crafted for him. Diplomatic, words about unfortunate misunderstandings, and continued dialogue. Nothing about accountability, nothing about justice. He folded the paper carefully and set it aside. The press secretary stiffened. The Secretary of Defense shifted uncomfortably. 2 weeks ago, Marcus began in his own words, I was handcuffed in a gas station parking lot for the crime of being black in an expensive vehicle. The room went silent. I'm not standing here because I'm angry about what happened to me. I'm standing here because I'm heartbroken about what happens every day to the people who don't have stars on their shoulders. He could feel the tension radiating from the officials beside him, but continued steadily. I've commanded troops in 3 combat zones. I've been responsible for operations that cost billions and lives that are priceless. But none of that mattered when Officer Mercer saw only the color of my skin. Marcus looked directly into the cameras. I've been offered settlements, promotions, and incentives to let this go. I've been told it's practical. But practicality without principle isn't leadership. It's cowardice. The Secretary of Defense took a half-step forward, but Marcus continued. This morning, I formally requested that the Department of Justice open a pattern or practice investigation into the department that employs Officer Mercer. And I'm announcing the creation of a task force to review similar incidents involving service members of all ranks. He straightened to his full height. I didn't wear this uniform for 34 years to have my rights respected only when my rank is visible. I wore it because I believe every American deserves equal justice, and until that's true, none of us are truly free. The room erupted. The Pentagon press secretary frantically called for order. The Secretary of Defense's face had gone rigid with controlled fury. But as Marcus Washington stepped away from the podium, his back straight and his conscience clear, he knew he had just fired a shot that couldn't be called back, and this time, the whole world was watching. If someone crossed the line and humiliated you, would you have forgiven them, or made sure the world saw what they did? Drop your take in the comments. Also hit like and subscribe. The changes came not in a flood, but in a steady, unstoppable tide. First, Officer Mercer was terminated, not just placed on leave or allowed to resign, but fired with cause following an expedited review of his service record. Then the police chief resigned, as documented evidence emerged that complaints against Mercer had been systematically buried. The Department of Justice announced a formal investigation into the department's patterns and practices, with preliminary findings suggesting significant and troubling disparities in enforcement. But for Marcus, watching from his office at Fort Belvoir, the most meaningful change came in the form of a video call that connected him to a young Army sergeant stationed in South Korea. "General, sir," the sergeant began nervously, "I wanted to thank you personally. Last week, I was stopped while driving off base. When the officer started getting aggressive, I mentioned your name and what happened. His whole attitude changed." "Sir?" Marcus nodded, understanding the weight of what remained unsaid. "At ease, Sergeant Chen. I'm glad it helped." "It's more than that, sir. The guys in my unit, we feel like someone's finally got our backs. Like maybe the uniform actually means something when we're not in combat." After the call ended, Marcus sat quietly, reflecting on the 34 years that had led to this moment. The battles fought on foreign soil and on home ground. The weight of stars that had once felt like achievement and now felt like responsibility. His phone rang. The Secretary of Defense again, probably with another attempt at damage control. Marcus let it go to voicemail. Instead, he opened his email to find a message from Captain Warren, the officer who had arrived at the gas station that night and immediately removed his handcuffs. The subject line read simply, "Thank you." Inside was a photo of Warren's department implementing new training protocols, developed with input from Marcus's task force. Below it, a simple message. Sometimes it takes someone with the courage to stand tall to help others find their backbone. We're changing, sir. Slowly, but surely. Marcus smiled, thinking about the young soldiers who would never know what it was like to wear a uniform that earned respect abroad, but offered no protection at home. There would be more battles, more resistance, more practical solutions offered in place of principled stands. But for now, in this moment, a single act of injustice had rippled outward to create waves of change. And that, Marcus Washington's, knew, was what justice looked like when it actually worked. Some say forgiveness is strength. Others say it's surrender. If you were the general today, would you forgive the officer, or let him face justice fully? Tell us below. Like and subscribe too. The camera panned across an empty gas station at sunset, the same one where it all began. Voice-over narration filled the silence. It takes one moment to expose injustice, one person to stand firm, one voice to speak truth. The scene shifted to a military ceremony where General Washington pinned bars on a diverse group of new officers. But it takes all of us to create change that lasts, to build systems where respect isn't earned by rank, but given as a human right. A final shot showed Marcus in civilian clothes, sitting with his family at his sister's Sunday dinner, laughing and at peace. Justice doesn't wear stars or badges. It lives in the courage to do what's right when no one is watching, and to stand firm when everyone is. Because dignity isn't granted by others, it's protected by each of us, every day. If you enjoyed today's story, like, share, and subscribe for more justice stories like this.